Progress.
Hello guys, today I had an irresistible urge to share something that has been uh, the buzz of the entire world, the sudden demise of the Queen. And I'd like to share my own heartfelt condolences. Also, I'd like to extend my heartfelt and from the deep psyche of my inner core, being an Indian, being part of the colonies of the British Empire. Also, as an independent Indian, and directly or indirectly, we Indians have a lot more to share and also express our concerns because we are even today almost a legacy of what British Empire has left with us. And it's no wonder that it's really hard to remain immunized from the surroundings and the kind of British hegemonistic, imperialistic, dynastic rule that has left its imprints all over the globe in the most telling effects. So you can see this slide where I have tried to capture some of the dynastic lineage, and also I've come across the number of queens and kings and their whole dynastic rule, and I would attempt at showing how they have been ruling the roost all the time. Some of the faces you can see in front of, probably these are the kings and princes from the yesteryears, and in fact this is the queen. You can see who bade adieu to all of us, the most charming woman, the most charming queen, who had a very prolonged tenure. And she was not the Queen of England per se, but she was the queen of the hearts of billions, and she used to be the heartthrobs of millions of people, not only in her own nation as the head of the ecclesiastical churches, but also she used to oversee the entire administrative paraphernalia. In fact, no head of the state, president or prime minister of England could function without consulting her in all the day-to-day affairs, or whether it's economy, culture, or fiscal policies, or administrative strategies, or striking good relationship with the rest of the world, or as a Commonwealth head of the nation, as a member of the Commonwealth. So Queen Elizabeth II is actually, she is dead at the ripest age of 96. And that's brought her unprecedented 70-year reign to a close. So it was 7 decades of, but it's not with an iron hand. It's not with the kind of, the heart of a colonizer, with the fist of, autocratic queen, but as trusty guide for the world, and also as a policy maker, policy framer, a philosophize, with her ardent support for the kind of economic principles, the kind of cultural promotion, and also the kind of bonhomie that she wanted to promote or foster uh, among the nations. I'm showing you the 70-year-old reign, how it began with the humble beginning of, and this is a picture of her childhood days, a decade before the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the lasted to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the Falkland War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the end of the Cold War. Also the 9/11 attacks and the invention of the internet and the smartphone. That means she is a living legend. She has been witnessing history replicating or in the making, and she has always been the darling of not only the throb, the queen of the hearts of the English people, but also she has gained a kind of very warm goodwill, bonhomie with the rest of the people of the world, despite all the grudges being colonized, and probably we Indians or some of the African nations, in fact, during the British Empire, even the sun never set. So half the world was under the dynastic rule of this one family. Delving deeper into her past years and how she was thrust the very onerous task of becoming the queen, and also becoming the in fact she had to she fell in love when she was quite young, only 8, and this Philip was 14 or 16 years old. Elizabeth and Philip married at Westminster Abbey in 1947 in front of 25,000 guests. Times magazine reported that Philip gave up smoking that morning as a gift to his new wife. That's a good gesture on the part of the husband, to quit smoking and getting addicted or intoxicated with a wife's love and affection. The humble beginning and her rise to the meteoric position of becoming the queen of the whole world started with her taking into account the pivotal role of not only reigning and also intervening time to time, and also commanding and giving supports with the queen. I can show you the picture of how the queen got the greetings, well wishes in London during celebration 1977 of her silver jubilee. So she could successfully complete her 25th year in progress, and she was not only praised and admired over the world, but also she was famously called the Annus Horribilis. She wasn't called actually. In fact, there was a year when something went awry, and there was tragic sequences of events, and that year was named as Annus Horribilis, Latin for horrible year. The people were unhappy, and everyone knew it. She had an affair. There were some people in her family. They had scandalous journey, whether it was Sarah Ferguson or Prince Andrew, and they had split. And Mark Philip, Elizabethan feminists called 990 the Annus Horribilis, because of the internal rivalry or internal scandalous mishappenings in the dynasty. But Elizabeth didn't slow down as she celebrated 50 years in the throne in 2002, her golden jubilee year. So although there wasn't much of celebration that year as 25th year of her silver jubilee, but still there were lots of gusto in her, and she continued her goodwill gestures and goodwill, moves, visiting all over the world, especially the African countries, and she was really admired even during, those famine and impoverished, nations struggling with poverty, and probably largely because of the colonization or the siphoning away of the wealth from these nations, while when Britishers they had ruled over, and they use all these colonies as their industries. They process all the goods, and then they always uh, try to take away all the materials and sell it on. So I'm reminded of Shashi Tharoor's address in the President's Hall when he gave an estimated account of, that could run into trillions in India's case, but the same goes for the rest of the world and in African countries. So, but despite all those, kinds of colonial past, or maybe tarnished past, she remained the darling of the world, and she always had full support, and also had very reserved kind of comments to make whenever any crisis came. The goodwill of the British press was short-lived. In January 2022, Prince Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back from the royal family. The couple moved to California with a son, Archie, and in March 2021 gave a bombshell televised interview to Oprah Winfrey, in which they said they received no support from the royal family amid scrutiny by the British tabloid. These were some of the ups and downs, some of the cataclysmic events that rocked the entire British monarchy. But that didn't deter her from going ahead with whatever she was supposed to deliver in the capacity of being the ceremonial monarch. And she just after 2 weeks period of mourning, even with her husband passing away, she didn't wait for much for in fact, on April 9, Prince Philip, whose health had been deteriorating for years, died at the age of 99, had a full, ripe years, and he and Elizabeth had been married for almost 73 years. One of the longest conjugal life lived in harmony. And a harrowing image from Philip's funeral on April 17 showed the Queen sitting alone because of COVID-19 restrictions. So this Queen also survived this pandemic, where she had to put the things in order, and also used to command over the things right under her nose, to station completely grounded because she couldn't travel the rest of the part of the world, and she had no choice but to do the oath ceremonies of the new Prime Minister in front of her. It was a tough time for the rest of the world also, and she was no exception to the rule. So just after 2 weeks of period of mourning, Elizabeth returned to work, hosting President Joe Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden at Buckingham Palace in June. So she also began her busiest season of public engagement since 2013, after being forced into isolation for most of the pandemic to that point. So despite being in isolation, she never forgot the kind of responsibility that was thrust upon her shoulder. And she never shirked away from her responsibility or duties in whatever capacity she could. Despite her deteriorating health conditions and in her elderly age, she never shied away from giving out her best. That's what is remarkable and admirable in her. In fact, towards the end of her life also, last 2 days, probably this Liz Truss, the Prime Minister, newly appointed Prime Minister, she went there and she got the blessings of the lady the Queen, and in fact, she was supposed to broadcast televised address, a recorded address, but she managed to see her. Although she was bedridden, and she was advised not to indulge in any sort of strenuous task, of whether it's giving instructions or commands or reading paper or signing out or signing in. So on May 9th, Buckingham Palace announced that Queen would miss the state opening Parliament because of episodic mobility problem. So she had started, some health issues with immobility. It was the first time since 1963 when Elizabeth didn't attend the opening of Parliament and reading of the Queen's speech. The ceremony sets out Parliament government agenda for the coming year. Prince Charles read the speech in her place. So unfortunately, the story of her illustrious career as Queen was drawing to a close. And obviously, no one lives for eternally. The monarch continued her weekly audience with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson over the phone, but cancelled her virtual engagement and she continued to recover during pandemic. So it's really remarkable what kind of woman, and the courage, the kind of large-heartedness, the kind of commitment and the endurance that she had. The first time in a break from tradition, the Queen appointed the UK's new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, in a ceremony held in her home in Balmoral, Scotland on September 6. Previously, she had carried out every audience with the new Prime Minister from Buckingham Palace. So that was the order of the day, and this was a bit of a departure. So the words of the national anthem, God Save the Queen, now it's going to be changed, because with the mantle falling on the Richard, it's going to be altogether a different scenario, where this transition from the Queen for the last 70 years with his insignia and symbols and every pound and post office notes and governmental documents, all are going to change. And this is not going to be easy for the government to switch over. It would take almost a decade or so when things are going to get back to normalcy. And obviously, this is going to be tough for British, monarchy to come up with or devise the ways of having another kind of protocols and ceremonies, and because she had almost laid the ground, almost paved the way for whatever is happening in England, and she made sure that things were kept in order in every true sense. So I actually wanted to play this anthem, and whether it would be possible for playing this anthem or not, I'm not sure, but I'll try to use this, embed this video in this, and also I might show you some of the videos that I have collected from archives. In fact, there is a video where we can see the Queen's celebrations, 25th years of Jubilee, and new generations, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip looking at tributes to Prince Diana from the public during her funeral on September 6th. That was an unfortunate event in the entire drama of this monarchies. And Elizabeth reversed her stance in the flag and paid tribute to Diana in a televised address to the nation, calling her an exceptional and gifted human being. Because Lady Diana, she was another heartthrob, and she broke away from the traditions, and she gave a hard time to the Queen, like Philip and all. So, and the way she was chased in her car, and due to Friday, her lover, and the kind of death that she met, the kind of euphoria all around the world, and the tabloids flashing the news of the funeral, but still the Queen kept her calm, and she remained, vigilant all over and presided over everything as a very mature, queen, the head of the ecclesiastical house. And in fact, Elizabeth and Philip met at a wedding when the princess was 8 and he was 13. Philip was born into a Greek and Danish royal family. In fact, Philip was an admiral. It's a very handsome, very charming fellow. And she instantly fell in love with her. Now, what is a bit disconcerting and that was quite unpleasant was that the loads of euphoria and hue and cry was raised because why, being an Indian, we should ever pay homage to the Queen, because she was our perpetuators of she had indulged in victimization of the British Empire, and after all she represents all those nasty kind of criminal acts of endangering the lives of others, forcing the people to go for slavery, and also kind of but I don't go by those whimsical and fancy. I mean, like this is could be a diatribe, a kind of could be a very parochial outlook towards the head of the state. She left no stone unturned in bringing things to the fore, and I'm really thankful that she always headed the Commonwealth countries, which have always worked for the welfare of majority of the countries in all over the world, in fact. And no wonder that she had played a significant role, not only in bringing about the peace and fraternity, and also a kind of justice system towards and her visits to all of those nations where she had lent her hands towards the amelioration of the poor people, and she had indulged in lots of welfare activities all around the world. No wonder, and it would be uncouth, quite irresponsible, not to acknowledge what she had achieved during the last longest reign of 70 years, and even before having her last breath, she contributed towards the welfare of not only Britain, but also towards the welfare of every country. Being the head of the British royal family, also being a part of the real prime mover, or who envisaged there should be a platform, the world platform, the Commonwealth, where all the head of the states should join hands and should together wrap their heads around all the teething issues the world is faced with. So that in itself tells a lot about her immeasurable contribution to the ongoing process of, and probably because of by dint of her sincere efforts, we haven't had to witness any third world war so far. Probably the visionaries or the leaders like her and other heads of states, it could be probably it could be because of sincere efforts of such principled prime movers, prime leaders of the prime countries, and one of the veto members, 5 prominent members of the Security Council in England, China, France, USA. And also she had a wonderful relation with the USA, and it's always she had invited every president of the states from everywhere to join hands, and also to show what is in the interests of the commoners, also what is in the interest of the, promoting world security, world peace. May long live the Queen in her hereafter. And her funeral was such an elaborate, proceedings that the whole world witnessed. In fact, I'm reminded of miles of people thronging towards, and in fact, I'm reminded of David Beckham, a footballer. He had to wait for around 17 to 18 hours in line, and although he was asked to jump the line, but he said no. I mean, whatever it takes to be there and to pay the last tribute to the lovely Queen, he will do that. In fact, majority of the people, and in fact, there was a kind of suffocating, choking line, and the British government had to prepare itself in advance for all the security measures and mayhem that could have, a trigger of. But those people were lucky to pay the floral tributes to, and apart from each and every head of state had to sign in. Although the mantle has fallen on Richard, and he doesn't appear to be a sort of person the Queen was, because he has already earned bad name because of his a bit of spoiled behavior, and also kind of frustration that he expresses. Well, I'm all sympathy with him, and let's see how far he is able to continue with the same decency and decorum that the Queen has left, and how far he takes this legacy of monarchy in consummation and with dignity. Thank you so much. Being an Indian, being one of the part of the colonies of the British Empire, I bear no grudges against her, because this was the order of the day in those times, and the whole world was, partitioned into blocks, power blocks, and NATO and Warsaw, and Britain was no exception to that, because of their hegemonistic role all over the world, and heavy industrialization in the country, and obviously have an upper hand. And there's no wonder that if you're technologically advanced, you will have a sway over the rest of the world. Even that's happening even today, and maybe directly, indirectly, but there are still colonies. Maybe not in the sense that Britishers are their colony over the world, but USA, and they have their arms and arsenals, their bases and military drills and all the rest of the world, and still the world is divided into power blocks. Anyway, it's not the time to discuss about political scenario, because we must talk in glowing terms, whoever for the soul that has departed, and she must rest in peace. Hail the Queen, hail the monarchy, if it survives with all the ordeals. And thank you so much.